what is it about reaching across the aisle that just I don't know what the news media is always saying things like Republicans just aren't they're not doing anything to win over other people. They're not doing anything to attract the opposite side. They never want to meet us halfway. And I think to myself, when was the last time you heard a progressive talking about meeting you halfway? Saying, all right, right now we currently have gun laws that require background checks, and we have all kinds of taxes on them, and all these different things. And when was the last time you heard a progressive say, you know what? I know you want to totally get rid of the waiting period or the background check on handguns, and we really want stiffer penalties on handguns, so we'll settle for something in the middle, closer to what you're wanting rather than what we're wanting. What tends to happen is they tend to take some very, very super aggressive position. They say something like, "You know what? We want to outlaw all guns. We want to outlaw all magazine-fed rifles." Just look at what they did in California. I'm using Second Amendment as an example, but you use anything, tax policy, whatever you want to do, healthcare, and you can say, "Look at California. California now has outlawed any use of a weapon that has a detachable magazine." So, and you can't have, if you have something that it's not a bolt action, a single fire bolt action, then you have to, it can't be more than 10 rounds. Now, what they would prefer is they would prefer that no one be allowed to buy guns at all, that they just strip them all off the streets. So they start with some super aggressive position, and then they dial it back to something far greater than what you already have. There's never a discussion about generating more liberty, I guess is what I'm getting at. There's never that talk. There's only a talk about how much more of your liberty are we going to take. We want a whole lot more, but we'll settle for a little bit. And for some reason, we tend to fall in line with this methodology, this ideology. We say, well, I mean, we thought we were going to lose it all, and now we're only losing a little bit. So, man, guess we're getting off easy here. Guess we better reach across the aisle. I was just watching the Criminal News Network, and they're talking about Donald Trump and how he's not interested in trying to attract anybody anymore, and he's just going to be, working on the base and on finding those people who already love him and appreciate him. And I'm thinking to myself, when was the last time Hillary Clinton reached out to people who wanted to reduce taxes or who wanted more greater freedom to the Second Amendment? When was the last time she reached across the aisle to somebody who absolutely hated this climate change BS? We're going to talk more about that today. Canada is now implementing its plan to reduce its climate emissions, its CO2 emissions. It's destroying the environment up there in Canada. And so everybody in Canada now is going to have to be subject to an additional tax in order to bring down and pay and be punished for the all of the dangerous gases that they're pumping into the atmosphere. And the truth is, it's part of their tactics. Part of their tactics is to accuse the other side of being inflexible. How many times did you hear Obama say, "I'm willing to reach across the aisle. I'm willing to help"? But when he got right down to it, what he really meant was, "I'm willing to talk to Republicans as long as they're willing to do whatever I want." Oh, I'm willing to discuss different options with Obamacare. I'm willing to discuss all the options, but if they're talking about not doing Obamacare, well, that's not on the table. So you can tweak around the edges of Obamacare, but if you think you're going to put up something different, a different plan, and we're going to debate the validity of 2 or 3 different plans, well, that's not an option. This is the only plan, and maybe we'll let you tweak it a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. But beyond that, well, you're just unwilling to work with the other side. How can I work with these Republicans? How can I work with them?
These obstructionists.
Yeah. And we need to be uncompromising. You understand? Uncompromising. Unabashedly uncompromising in terms of moving towards liberty. Now, if we get into a conversation where I wanted the total removal of background checks for firearms, and I say, hey, it's my right to purchase it. The government doesn't need to know that I'm purchasing it. And I shouldn't have to go and ask the government for permission before I do something that I'm constitutionally allowed to do. Well, then we can have a discussion about whether we do that or whether we reduce the background check from where it is now. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Maybe the background
Look,
check is a
look. I want to abolish the IRS.
there
Okay,
you go.
that's where I'm at.
That's maybe a better one.
But if today we're gonna work from moving my tax burden from 40%, 30% to 15%, okay, I'll take that today.
Yeah. I'm willing to move that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to be doing and employing the same tactics that our enemy employs. And make no mistake, folks, progressives are the enemy. They're the enemy to liberty. They're the enemy to free markets. They're the enemy to everything that you love and hold dear. They are the enemy. Their ideas, what they're doing, what they're attempting to do, the actions that they take on a daily basis threaten your right to live free. Now, truthfully, we've got a lot of former progressives and former neoconservatives in this group that listen to this show that we've been able to convert and we've been able to kind of wrap our arms around. But never once did I have to sacrifice principle to do it. Never once when I reached across did I say, you know what? I know that you're in favor of taxation, and so I'm just gonna I'm okay with a little bit of tax. No, I'm okay with no tax. That's the only amount of tax that I'm in favor of. But if I have to take it at $1 at a time, I'll take a reduction $1 at a time. But we're not going to go the other way. There's not going to be a discussion about whether we want to raise taxes by 20% and then we settle on 10%. No, 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 no. That's a non-starter. See, this is the difference. This is the confusion that some people have when I start talking about. I've had many, many questions in this election cycle because of my objection to Gary Johnson. And the biggest problem I have is that he doesn't move the needle in the right direction in too many areas. And in the other areas, I'm not really sure where he stands because I'm not sure he knows where he stands. And we could point out a lot of evidence of that. I'm not going to take time on the show today to do that. The point I'm getting at here is that when we talk about taking an inch, we always take an inch in our direction. That is what progressives do. If they ever lose an inch, it's a catastrophic loss for them. Like they're not used to that. They're used to taking less of a win than they would like, but very rarely are they ever in a position where they have to take a loss. It's those on the side of liberty that are constantly having it chipped away at. And what I'm suggesting to you is, as we talk about this, as you talk about it with your friends and neighbors, as you begin to try and convince them and convert them, the appropriate message to them is not, well, if you happen to be a raving mad liberal, maybe you look at Jill Stein because her foreign policy is a little better. No, no, no. Listen, the only real option here, the only thing that gets you where you want to go, the only thing that's going to produce the type of life and give the type of opportunity to the poor and the middle class, the only thing that's going to raise you up out of poverty and do this type of things and provide the type of things that you want everyone in America to have is if you have more freedom and liberty and more open and transparent markets, less government. That is the only way. That is the conversation that we should be having always and in every case. It's unfortunate that we don't do that. I've been reading through the private Facebook group, which you can join. If you want to join the group, just go to jasonstapleton.com/Facebook. Or you can, if you know how to search in groups in Facebook, you can do it that way. But jasonstapleton.com/Facebook will take you to the private Facebook group page, and you can just request to join. And I don't know how many we've had in the last couple of days, but it's been several people who've said, hey, I can't believe it, but I've been doing what Jason asked me to do, and I've been talking with a bunch of people that I know about liberty, and I converted a Hillary Clinton supporter. She's now going to vote libertarian. And another guy who said, you know what? My brother and my younger brother, my older brother, they're both now listeners to this show. They're both now libertarians. This show was always about being a vehicle to spread a message that I didn't think was getting any traction at all. I'm looking across the political and media landscape in America today, and I am finding a voice vacant. You know, the voice used to be filled by the Sean Hannitys and the Rush Limbaughs of the world, the Mark Levins of the world, and even that is starting to fade. The simple voice that says we have a right to be free, that liberty and the pursuit of our individual action should be paramount, should take precedent over the collective, that we shouldn't have to settle for some sort of middle ground, that we shouldn't have to constantly be giving up more and more of our freedoms and our liberties and our opportunity simply because that's the way it always happens. And nobody is preaching that message. And I think, and what this show I think is helping to illuminate, is the fact that most people believe what you and I believe. They really just want to be left alone. They want the government out of their house, out of their business. They want their taxes as low as humanly possible, zero if they could get them there, while at the same time feeling like they're not screwing over their neighbor. That's really what it is. When you whittle it down, that's what most people are looking for. And all we have to do is deliver that message. All we have to do is share that with them. Say, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, there's too much money in politics. You're absolutely right. Yeah, these wars are terrible. Look at all these people dying over there. You know, the right wing always likes to wrap themselves in the flag, and they like to be out there saying they support the troops. Well, then support them. Tell them this war is BS. Tell our leaders they need to come home. Ask them why we're still fighting in Afghanistan. Ask them what the operational goals there are. Not a single one of them can answer. Ask them what victory looks like. What does a win look like here? What government do we go to after we've toppled to sign the peace treaty with? You think someday we're going to be sitting across the table with the leaders of ISIS? Why are we there? That's supporting the troops. Supporting the troops is saying, hey, I don't think you need to go die for that today. Yet for some reason, when someone brings it up and says, hey, that's bull, we don't need to be over there doing that, all of a sudden, we're anti-American. We've got to become better communicators of our message, because when we do that, when you work at it, when you practice it like you practice your whatever field of study you involve yourself with, when you practice the articulation of the principles of liberty, you begin to convert the minds and the hearts of the people around you. And those of you who have been doing that, who've been actively engaged in that, or in seeing people come together, you guys recognize it. The funny thing is that you run into a whole bunch of people that you're like, man, I would have never thought that that guy would have believed the same thing I believed. I would have never thought that he would have been so receptive to the message. Yet he is. And all it takes is you with a spirit of generosity and joy and a deep desire to have them know and understand the truth. Present that to them. That's what we do on this show. And so I hope that as you guys go through the rest of the week, that you're taking time to really present that, and that you're not falling into this trap that the media and that our opponents are constantly laying at us, telling us, well, you need to be more inclusive. You need to sacrifice what you believe a little bit more so that, you can grow a bigger tent. The tent's already big enough. It numbers in the tens of millions. All you have to do is show people this is the name for what it is that you believe.